If you guys don't mind, we've got this great series that we're going through, Survival Guide. We're going through the book of James, and I want to begin with the Word of God. So we believe that the Bible is inspired by God. We believe that there is a being out there that is hyper-intelligent, trans-universal, omniscient, and omnipresent, that is beyond time and space in a different dimension that can act on and has created this dimension, has interacted with us as carbon life forms. He loves us, interacts with us, cares about us, and has spoken to us. He's chosen to engage with us as beings through this book, through people that have put this together, and we read it today as the Word of God. And so we go to James chapter 4, and let's read the first 10 verses together. What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? Listen, now, you desire and do not have, so you murder. You covet, but you cannot obtain, so you fight and you quarrel. You do not have, because you do not ask. You ask, and then you don't receive, because you ask wrongly to spend it on yourself and on your passions. You adulterous people. Do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Or do you suppose it is to no purpose that Scripture says he yearns jealously over the Spirit that he has made to dwell in us? But he gives more grace. Therefore, it says God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Therefore, submit yourself to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, you double-minded. Be wretched and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, your joy to gloom. Humble yourself before the Lord, and he will exalt you. That's a tough passage to speak at a youth program. That's like, you come in here, especially if this is your first time in church, and you're like, oh wow, everything they said about church is true. Like, what am I doing here? I want to break this down for you guys, because what Pastor James is speaking to us here, what he writes to us, is actually very, very simple and is actually very relevant to each person here. We begin with a simple concept: unfulfilled passions, unfulfilled desires. I know I've got a PowerPoint ready for you guys somewhere up there, so if you guys could take a look at that. Peter, just in case I emailed it to you, maybe you need to forward it to somebody. Okay, sometimes I have to check. That was not the PowerPoint, but thank you. What's the difference between wants and needs? What's the difference between a want and a need? Shout it out. What's a want? Or maybe maybe you've got an analogy. Say again?
You don't need what you want.
You don't need what you want a lot of times. Yeah. Sometimes it aligns, but a lot of times it doesn't. Absolutely. Give me some more. Brand new car? Is that a want or a need? It's a need. Give me some more. Give me a good analogy or something. Maybe.
Food, water, and shelter.
Food, water, and shelter. What else?
Worldly desires.
Things of this world. So passions, we say. What else? Let me give you an example. Repeat the question. Difference between wants and needs. Oh, okay. I didn't know if you weren't paying attention, Ed. Right now at work, I work in a place where I've got several direct reports, folks that are learning how to sell. And we're going, literally this week, we're having a conversation of what's the difference between a want and a need. So if you're ever in a sales environment or in a marketing environment, it's always very important. When somebody comes to you and says, Pete, I want you to do this for me, you don't listen to them. You say no. You're like, what do you mean, Pete? Take that order, take that money and get out of here. No, you never do that. You come back to that potential client, the prospect, and you say, why? Why would you want me to do that for you? And they're going to say, well, because I have certain issues. Okay, what would it mean if I fixed those issues? What would happen if they stayed the same? And you have that conversation where it went from, hey, I want you to fix my website to, I need you to do it or else I'll be out of business next week. And then you're having a conversation not about fixing some little button on their website to the fact that, hey, if we don't help you, you're going to be out of business. Are you guys seeing the difference now? The want is that scratch. You want to scratch it and you think it's going to go away. The need is this cancer that's right there. It's the melanoma that you're scratching that needs to be fixed. The one is, it's just a want. I want that. The need is, I gotta have it or else I can't survive. Here's the reason I put that into perspective. What do we really need? We can lay out, somebody said, it was Alex, was that you? Food, water, shelter, all that stuff, like physical needs. Tony Robbins actually, I like the way he classifies it. He puts it into 6 categories. Certainty. We need certainty, which is safety, stability, security, control. We need variety, on the opposite end, adventure, surprises, change, novelty. Everybody needs significance. Number 3, significance. Need to have meaning, pride. You want to be wanted. You want to be admired. Number 4, love and connection. Love and connection, meaning communication, being connected with someone, deep relationships and intimacy. Number 5, you need growth, need for emotional, intellectual, and spiritual development. And then number 6, contribution, need to belong to a greater group, to participate, to be part of a whole. There we go. Every person at the base level needs these 6 things. Would you guys agree with me? Yeah? These are things we need. These are things we can't live without. These are our driving forces. But what do we want? What do we really want? We need these things, but how are they expressed? Let me ask you this question. How many of you here have ever been disappointed with life? Ever? You're like, this isn't really what I signed up for. I thought it would be better than this. You know, like the advertisement when I was before being born, they showed it was different on the brochure, and now I'm in life, and it's not as cool as I thought it would be. Because it comes from unfulfilled desires. We know we need certain things, but we don't know how to express it. We don't know how to attack it correctly. So all of us invariably fall into this easy shortcut of wants. I want things instead of coming back and saying, this is what I need. How do I do it in a way that God wanted me to get that? We go back to, I want things. You want to be cool, right? You want to be accepted maybe, or you need to be accepted. You need to show significance. And so what do you say? Well, that means I need to be cool. So what do? We go on trips. Guys, the reality is, admit it. We go on these trips. You go to like Mexico and Europe and other places and all over the U.S., and you take pictures, and half the time you do it for the gram, right? Because you want your friends to be like, oh, wow, you're so cool. You went there, or you went to the other place. We do it because we want to kind of have that aura of, wow, you went to Coachella. You're so cool. We want other people to think about us a certain way. And then guess what happens? Your other friend or that other person puts something better on their Instagram, and you feel what? Disappointment? You feel a little jealousy. You're like, well, I can't top that. You want to have love and connection. You want to feel desired. So that's what you go to. You now want, instead of saying, I need love and I need connection, you say, well, I want to be desired. I want to be wanted. Well, because I want to be wanted, I'm going to act a certain way, and I'm going to talk to guys or talk to girls a certain way. I'm going to dress a certain way to attract attention, all because I want to be desired, all because I need love and intimacy. And so because we don't know how to tackle that, we go after things we want instead. And when that doesn't work, we feel disappointed again. You want to feel respected? Because you want to experience that significance. You need significance. So you say, well, I'm going to be respected. And if you don't give me your respect, I'll beat it out of you. Come at me. Say that again. Hold me back, bro. Hold me back. Let me at him. And so, yeah, you won't do it. You won't do it. You won't punch me in the face, says the guy that was punched in the face. We don't know how to express our needs correctly, so we go after our wants and our passions and our desires. James says they overwhelm us. You want to feel happy in life. You want to feel like you're contributing, like you're growing. There's significance. And you realize that because you can't have that need outside of God, you cannot fulfill it. We go to other ways, and you're like, hey, guess what? It's a little easier to live life when I'm a little tipsy. It's a little easier to live life if I take these pills every once in a while, or I do this drug. I mean, it's nothing really. I can control it. It's just a little easier to get through life. And we become just maybe not even addicted so much as we become dependent on these things to fulfill our wants because we don't know how to handle our needs. And again, James says the reality is you have all of these wants. You know what these unfulfilled desires. And what does it lead you to? He says, so you hate, you murder. Everybody here's like, well, I haven't murdered anybody in a while. Like it's been a couple weeks. They haven't caught me yet. If that's you, please turn yourself into the police right now. We need to keep the rest of the crowd safe. But Jesus says that if you hate somebody, it's the same as murder. Because at the heart of murder is hate. At the end of the day, he draws that line and says, man, you want to be a person of significance. You want to be somebody that rises above. You cannot hate. Hate cannot live inside of you. And you know when hate lives inside of us? When we have unfulfilled desires. We want things so badly that we hate when other people can't give it to us or when other people are in the way of things. And then he says, so you covet. You want things even more. You let it consume you. It takes up your brain space. You always want a little more. Studies have shown that people are happiest when they have just a little more than their friends. So you can live in the slums of India, but if you've got a bike and your buddy doesn't, you feel like I'm the richest dude in the slums of India, like I'm the best. And then you take that same person and put it into American suburbs and you feel like a homeless person, you feel miserable. The only thing that changed is the environment. But all of a sudden that person feels totally out of place. Like, oh, I hate it. Now I need a sedan, I need a car, I need a house to be like the rest of these people. That's really what drives us a lot of times. We covet when we realize, man, that person has it just a little better than I do. And we want his stuff. We want to be where that person is. Man, like it should be covetogram. We go through Instagram and we like, well, I want that. And everybody takes these awesome pictures, and I want that too. And look where she's at, and look what he's doing. And man, he's got a boat, and he's on Folsom Lake on a Saturday on a boat with a bunch of friends. Man, I wish I was there. I would love to have that. And we covet, and we want, and we want, and we want, and we fill that desire up. He says, you fight and you quarrel. I walked out of Target recently, and sometimes you avoid Walmart because you don't want to meet the people of Walmart. We all understand. But then I'm at Target and I meet crazy people sometimes. I walk out and it's like this pickup truck parked right in the middle of the entrance, like right in the driveway. The dad is behind the wheel. The mom is here on the passenger side hanging out the window, and they're just screaming at the top of their lungs at what I assume was their daughter and her boyfriend. And they're just like yelling right in the middle. It's embarrassing for everybody involved. For the people watching, for them, I guess it wasn't embarrassing. And she's just like, you no good daughter, you know, like hanging out without our, and just yelling. And she's yelling back at her mom, you never let me do anything. And I just want to go to shop. Why can't we hang out? And they're just yelling. And I'm like, wow, this is so awkward just to watch that they would air their laundry like this. In public. I don't know how, like, the mom drove up, found him, whatever's going on. We quarrel because she wants to do what she wants to do, and the mom wants to regain control, and they both have unfulfilled desires. We were in a restaurant. It was like a restaurant, bar and grill in Ohio many, many years ago, and we have dinner. I go to the bathroom, and as I'm walking out, I hear all this, like, commotion. And I turn the corner, and right where the bar section was, there's this probably like 55, 60-year-old man standing over a guy that must have been 35, both wasted, and he's got him by the shirt, and he's just pounding his face. Who you calling an old man? Just slamming him down. Just knocks him out, stands up and walks out. Apparently, this was his daughter's either boyfriend or fiance or something, and the whole night they're getting drunk, and he's like, old man, calling and the old man just snapped and just whipped his butt and walks out, get in his caddy, and just drives down the road, drives out. And I'm like, well, we won't come back here again. But the guy wanted respect. I want you to respect me. I'm 55 years old now, and I've earned your respect, and if you don't want to respect me, I'll beat it out of you. And so we fight and we quarrel, James says, because we want things we can't have. And finally, there's a dissatisfaction with God. There's a dissatisfaction with God. He says, you ask, you pray, and you say, hey, it would be nice if you did this in my life or the other thing, and we don't receive. And we become dissatisfied with God. I think one of the biggest lies that we in America have is that we think that God is for me. God is for my wants. We've kind of perpetrated that through, it's in the media everywhere. It's in our popular culture. Why doesn't God take care of things? Why can't he take care of business? We ask, and he doesn't answer. Why can't he get it together? Ted Turner, who you may or may not know, he was the founder of CNN. The guy's an old man, if he's still alive, which I'm not sure. But one of the loudest voices in criticizing Christianity, you can still see that through the news network that he ran or runs today. But the reality was he didn't always used to be so anti-Christian. He used to be a believer. He used to be somebody who was even contemplating of becoming a missionary as a young man. And then his sister got sick. And he said, well, I'm going to pray about it. I know God's going to answer my prayer. And he prays about it. And God decides that, no, I'm taking her home. Except Ted didn't see it that way. He felt personally attacked by God. How dare you not answer my prayer, God? How dare you let her pass away? How dare you take her from me? And he says it was that moment that made me, in his mind, he says, I went to war with God. We have dissatisfaction. I wanted it so much. I even got on my knees and prayed to you. I even asked you, God. I even came to you. And you won't listen to me? You won't do what I ask? And there's this image, folks, if anything frustrates me more, is this image that we have in the world that we are better than God. For whatever reason, we've constructed this idea, and people think that, for example, oh, I'm more just than God. I am more just than God. We're more just than God because I donated to a charity once. I did that one good thing. I did community service. I went to a soup kitchen. I volunteered at the SPCA. I did that thing. But God can't help those poor people dying in Africa. What kind of a person is he? I am more just than God. I took my precious time to go volunteer on a Saturday, and God can't save those poor people dying in the hurricane, like during hurricane season in Puerto Rico. Wow. I'm better than God. Not only am I more just than God, I'm more gracious than God. I understand we're all human. We like to think this is like the reality is check yourself because we've thought this. We're all human, and it doesn't matter if somebody like curses every once in a while or lies or you cheat. People make mistakes, or you stole something, or you sleep around, or you hate each other because you know what, they actually deserve it, and you do it, and I do it, and everybody does it. Why make a big deal about it, God? Why make a big deal of the little things like that? If we all do it, why do you have to call it a sin, God? Why do you have to make us feel bad about it? And so we think we're more just than God, we're more gracious than God, we think we're more loving than God. God, I can accept everybody, and if it were up to me, everybody would be in heaven. If it were up to me, I would let everybody in, and except Hitler, of course, and a few other mass murderers and my ex-girlfriend. But everybody else I would let into heaven. See, God, I'm more loving than you. You only want to let a small group of these religious nuts in because they go to church on Sunday and read and pray. Like, God, what about the rest of us? I would be a more loving God than that kind of God. Oh, we think we're more faithful than God. Oh, God, when my friends are in distress, when they send me a text, I'm always there for them. I got their back. They're my bros. They're my girls. Like, I'm always with them. But God, when I was going through hard times, where were you? Where were you, God? See, I'm more faithful. I'm more loyal than you, God. I don't know where you were. I would make a much better God. Oh, if only God were just like me. If only he could be just as good and nice and cool like me. That's literally what this culture tells us today. And we've taken this incredible being that is omniscient, hyper-intelligent, all-powerful, completely loving and gracious and pure and faithful, that works everything for our good, and we've boiled him down and put him on our measure, and we're like, God, you're lacking. You're not like me. I think I'm better. We've taken the objective truth, folks, the objective empirical truth of what a God being is like, and boiled it down to a subjective false truth that we've made up in our heads based on because I feel like it. Because I want it to be that way. Man, you challenge folks like that. I would challenge you if today you're thinking that, man, I've been disappointed in God, and I want to challenge you right now and say, where did you get your idea of God? What do you base it on? Because whatever you're thinking about that God, whatever God you've made up in your mind does not exist. Do you know who you are dealing with? You cannot bring that kind of God down and make him be a slave of your passions and your desires and unfulfilled wants because they're physical and they're important to me now. James calls that worldliness. You've taken a God and you've become consumed by the God of desires of this world. It's a false truth, folks, that's wrapped in bitterness, selfishness, discontent, jealousy, You believe that there's a God that should measure up to you, that should do what you want, be there for you when you want him to be there, a God that you don't owe anything to, but he should grovel at your feet for you to worship him and make only you happy because you are the source of truth. And you will constantly be miserable and angry and disappointed and depressed because that's not the way life is. And that's not the kind of God that truly exists. You have created a false reality that does not exist, and the longer you live in that fake reality, the more bitter and miserable your life will become. And so we go back again. The result of unfulfilled desires is hate and coveting and fighting and quarreling and a deep dissatisfaction with God. Here's the dirty secret, folks. This is for every single one of you. It's for me too. If you could have your way, if consequences were of no issue, if you could do literally anything and get away with it and nobody would think worse of you because it doesn't matter what they think, we would all be just the dirtiest, most vile, evil people, every single one of you. I don't care if you're the sweetest girl right now and your mom would vouch for you and you've got a perfect resume. I don't care who, you would be the most evil person were there no repercussions and no consequences. I mean, I don't care how sweet you think you are right now. You know in your mind you've thought some dark, dark things. You've imagined some really messed up scenarios. That's every single one of us. That's who we are as people. That is literally the desires that we want, the things that we have in our mind are just so perverted. Luckily, we keep control over most of that. We're socially aware because there are consequences, because we've been taught. There's psychologists and just people that study social sciences that'll tell you babies, when they are born, if they are left without discipline and self-control, will grow up to be just mass murderers and rapists and the most evil people in the planet. Luckily, they're small and tiny, and you can control them and raise them the right way to become people that actually can control their actions. But when you're born, were you left unchecked, you would be the most evil, but you would be the mixture of Hitler and Weinstein and Stalin all rolled up into one. That is our potential, every single one, if you were controlled by your wants completely. If you could have everything you've ever wanted in life, that is who you would be. That is literally who you would be, no matter the end, no matter the cost. If man or God would not stand in your way, no matter the outcomes, no matter who gets heartbroken, destroyed, or left behind, you would get your way because there are no consequences. That's what each of us has in our heart of hearts, a deep dissatisfaction, unfulfilled desires that we somehow try to control, and at the end of the day, we're just left with just dissatisfaction with life if we allow that to control us. So what do? We go back to Scripture. Do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God, James says. Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Therefore, it says, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourself, therefore, to God. Submitting to the world is being at war with God. Submitting to God is being at war with the world. James just outlines it about as cleanly as you can. Friendship with this world is enmity with God. Here's the way I want you to imagine it. If you could go forward like 2 slides, you guys. Two slides. I know our computers are slow. We'll get there. They'll catch up. One more. Imagine a 5-year-old. Imagine that it's this 5-year-old. Let's pretend that this is my sister. Let's pretend that her name is Anita. Theoretically, allegedly. She might have been a little bit more in this picture, but that's about the best one I could dig up. And I just think it describes her so well, so sweet on one end, but man, so stubborn on the other. I love her. She may be my sis. I have no favorite sisters, for the record, but I do like her in a special way. She's a reflection of me in so many ways. But imagine this sweet 5-year-old who's at the pool. You know, the first day they open up the public pool, right? We didn't have our own pool. We didn't have a lot of money. So we went to the public pool, and you paid 75 cents, and you could go in. You know, everybody paid their 3/4, and you can go to the public pool in Virginia. So first day of pool season, they open up the pool. It's still a little chilly, right? It's Virginia. It's like barely above freezing, let's be honest, in June. But they open up the pool, and you give them your money. And all the kids are in the water, right? We're swimming around, we're enjoying ourselves, and you know, a little bit later, my mom comes in because she's relaxing, she's enjoying the weather and reading or whatever, and she comes to the pool, and you can imagine. By the way, like, we've been stir crazy all winter, right? Sitting in the house, it's snowing, it's cold, whatever. But finally, we get pool. We're kids. We want to be in the water. We haven't gotten out for hours probably at this point. And you can imagine my mom coming up and looking down, and you see like just the 5 of us in the water, literally shaking from cold, but we're not getting out because we're in the pool. Like, we're making the most of this. And so she's like, get out, get out, get out. You guys are going to die of hypothermia. Get out. And you can imagine this sweet little girl, practically blue in the face at this point, barely managing to swim, but she's determined to keep swimming. And so she's now getting pulled out physically out of the pool, and one hand is on the pool railing, the other hand is in my mom. And she's like, no, let me, 5 more minutes. Let me keep swimming, crying with tears in her face, wanting to swim more, allegedly. Imagine that idea of my mom on one hand saying, let me save you before I have to take you to the emergency room because you're going to catch pneumonia, and this little girl whose only unfulfilled desire is to spend another 5 minutes in the pool. If you can just imagine that idea, the image I see here is of somebody that wants to fulfill their desire so badly here on earth that they are actively fighting God. If you can just imagine that picture and understand the truth in it, we so want to fulfill our desires, what I want, what I think is good for me, that we're fighting God off with the other hand and saying, don't touch me, I need to get it back in the pool. Let me have 5 more minutes, leave me alone. And that's literally the picture that James paints for. He says, man, you want to be friends with the world. You want what is in the world. You're so attracted to it, so wanting those things, even as you cannot have them, that you're actively fighting God to keep him away from your life because you want those things. Excuse me. You think that what you can achieve here is going to be so awesome. What can be better than finally getting with the guy or girl of your dreams? Get away, God. It's my dream. Get away. What can be better? What can be better than getting that dream car, that dream house, the dream place, the dream job? What can be better than having everybody's love and adoration? What can be better than having a group of friends that think you're just the best? God, get away. That's my dream. What can be better to live life just being you, just enjoying yourself, traveling, living for yourself? I mean, you're young. You've got all life in front of you. Just live for you. Get away, God. I told you before, that's my dream. I want it. Stop touching me. I want it so bad. I might have shared this with you guys before. It always makes me laugh at how stupid I was, or maybe still am. As a 14-year-old kid, it's the year 1999, December 31st, and for whatever reason, I was convinced that the Lord was coming back in the year 2000. I was like, we're praying there, and I didn't even know what time zone. It's like, whatever time zone I'm in, it's going to be midnight strikes, and we had this tradition in the church where you're in church and we like to bring in the new year on our knees, just be praying and blessing the new year. Great tradition. But here I am, obviously not at all paying attention to the prayer, and I'm just watching the clock. And I was praying, Lord, please don't come before I get my driver's license. I want to drive a car so bad. Just a little bit. Just wait till I'm 15 and a half and I have my permit. 2002 is your year, Lord. But till then, I really so badly want to drive a car. No joke, that was me. God, I want it so bad. Please don't come. I don't care about heaven. I don't care about you. I just want to drive a car here on earth. And if you think that's funny, look in the mirror and think about, what do you want so desperately right now that you wish, man, it would be kind of nice if God didn't come tomorrow, if he didn't make his kingdom come this week. Man, I would love to be here on earth for another year or two because I just got into the job I want. I just got accepted. I just got promoted. I just got this. I got my first car. I got plane tickets to Hawaii for next year. Man, I would sure love to do that before he comes. How do you escape the outcome of your desires? How do you escape that hunger, that fire that always lives inside of you, the feeling you never have enough, the depression and disappointment of falling short, the anger knowing that you will never get everything that you want? How do you escape that? James comes back and says, submit yourself. Humble yourself. Do you know that friendship with that is enmity with God? Therefore, who wishes to be the friend is the enemy of God. And so he's jealous for you, and he opposes the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. So submit yourself to God. Submit yourself to God. Surrender yourself. There's a being out there that is perfect, that is incredibly smart, that is incredibly beautiful, harmonic, that knows what's going on, incredibly powerful outside of time, that loves as he is the definition of love, that is pure and desires everything that is the best for you. We call that being God, and God, more than just being a distant being, wants to just interact with you, wants to have a relationship with humanity in some form, and not just humanity with you specifically. And God again and again says this, listen now. Listen, these are the words of God. That being wants to say this to you: I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Don't be mistaken by the idea that people have put out there that I want to take something away from you. No, plans to give you hope, plans to give you a future. And then you'll call on me and come and you'll pray to me and I will listen to you. Folks, what a difference from before when James says, you ask and you don't receive. Man, you're like Ted Turner. You're like so many people where you come to God and says, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. And you hear silence because James says, you ask wrongly, you ask for yourself. Versus when you submit to God, he says, you will come to me and I will give and listen and help and be there by you. What a big difference when we submit to God, when we switch sides, when we stop playing for ourselves and get on the right team. Somebody said this, I love it, guys. Just if you're taking notes, write this down. This will give you so much hope. Somebody said this: the first second of eternity will make all the pain we suffered here on earth worth it. The first second of eternity, of infinity, the first second of it, will make all of this worth it. Will make the fact that you submitted to God, that you left these desires behind worth it. It'll make it look so insignificant. It'll make it look so stupid and childish. And you'll think, why did I ever even want that stuff? Why was I even influenced by that? Why did I want to be that and do that? That first second, you'll realize this was so much better. This is incredible. James continues to to speak to us here and says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Do you know what your greatest weakness is? Friend, do you know what your greatest weakness is? 5-letter word. It begins with P, R, I, D, E. Pride. Your greatest weakness is pride. Now, if you're new here to church today and you're like, these church people, like, okay, I can get behind a notion of God, okay? Maybe there is a being out there like a God, but holy smokes, the devil? We're going to talk about the devil tonight at a youth service? Seems like such an outdated notion. And we've made it to be like a fictional character, folks, just really so that we can get a baseline here. I really want you to understand when I say the devil, what I'm talking about, what the Bible's talking about. The devil does not have horns. He's not red. He's not like a demon-looking thing. Everything you ever know about Satan, just throw it away right now. That is all made up. None of that is in Scripture. Literally, throw that away. We've made him into a Halloween costume, into a cartoon. That is not who the devil is. Just throw it out right now. The reality of who he is a million times more menacing than anything we could draw, come up, or try to represent visually. I just want you to understand, if there is one feature about him that you need to understand, is his mind-altering ability. There is a force out there, a sentient force that can influence your mind for evil, always for the worst, always for what's going to harm you. That is no joke, no caricature, no Halloween costume. There is something out there, a spiritual presence that is actively trying to kill you. And I don't mean that figuratively, literally. If that being could drive you to suicide right now, it would. If it could end your life right now, it wouldn't hesitate. Everything that God is too good, he is too evil. Everything that God is too holy and loving, he is too defiled and murderous. There is a being out there that wants you dead. You are being actively hunted by forces infinitely more powerful than you that would stop at nothing to capture your mind and kill it. And the only thing that stops him from entering your mind and just twisting it to immediate suicide is God himself. As long as God himself continues to protect you, folks, he can only influence you in a limited way. And his greatest weapon is pride. The reason is because pride is what we do when we say, God, I don't want your protection. Everything else, we can act out and live in sin and whatnot, but pride is what says, God, I don't want you anymore. I don't want your protection. I can do it by myself. I can take him by myself. And that is exactly what he's waiting for that protection to leave you. And you know what I'm talking about in your life. When you felt that, wow, that was a close call. Something supernatural happened that protected me. You know what I'm talking about. So many close misses, so many coincidences. I'm positive that almost 100% of you could recall back and think, dude, I almost died that one time. Wow, it was weird how that happened and I'm still alive. Let me explain to you how pride works, just in real life. When I was a kid, I thought it would be the coolest thing to have a wolf as a pet. Anybody else here? Like dudes who, all the men in the room are like, oh yes, I want a wolf as a pet. Any ladies that want a wolf as a pet? Just, really? Okay, all right. Wolves are so cool. Until I begin to read up on wolves and realize that wolves and dogs are completely different beings. Let me give you a live story here. This is Kathy T. She lives up north. This is her words. She says, "My dad was a trapper. He once told me about what he saw on his trap line, a lone wolf cross the frozen lake to try and entice his dog to follow it. Sometimes that's the wolf's strategy, to get one wolf to playfully approach a dog and lure it toward the waiting pack in the bushes. It's a tactic I've witnessed in my country home. From my kitchen window," she said, "I saw a wolf frolicking in the front yard. Playing around, it offered the bow position where it lowers its head, it's wagging its tail of, 'Let's play,' to my dog, and flirtatiously ran right to left. It acted just like a domesticated dog. I quickly ran out and called my dog inside, but the wolf did not run off when it saw me. In fact, my husband and I stood on the deck and yelled at it as loud as we could, and it just paused and coldly stared back at us until it slowly disappeared into the bushes." A few years later, we had two other dogs, she said, a Pyrenees and a retriever mix, a golden retriever mix, and a collie. Our new dog learned to stay close to home, so when the dogs wanted to go outside early one morning, I opened the door and let them out, and the collie began to bark as always she did at butterflies, snowmen, everything. She was always barking, so I thought nothing of it. A few hours later, when I called the dogs, only the collie, who had stayed in the yard the whole time, came in. Then I saw the ravens flying overhead, and I knew. I began to walk down the pipeline to look for our Pyrenees, and in the distance I could see a wolf standing in the middle of the trail. I quickly turned and went back home. When my husband and son came home, they took the snow machines out to that spot and found a scattering of our dog's white hair. It seemed so exciting. Oh, you got this new playmate, this beautiful creature came out of the forest, and it's playing, and it wants to be your friend. And like that stupid, proud dog, we think, oh, we can handle this. We're just friends. I can do this by myself. I can handle it. It's nothing. We're just having fun. It just wants to play. How many times as a young man I think about myself struggling with addiction, struggling with intense sin in my life, and I proudly would say, I can do this by myself. I can handle it. I don't need to tell anybody. I'll figure it out. I'll do it alone. How bad is it? How bad can it be? I'm not hurting anybody. It's just me. Sure, I've been sleeping around, but that's fine. I'll take care of myself. I'm not hurting anybody. It's just a couple of drinks. It's just a pill. It's just a puff. It's just for fun. It's just a lump of cells. It's not really a baby. It's not really murder. How bad can it be that I'm by myself, that I've left the church, that I'm running away from all the people that could support me. How bad can it be if I just enjoy myself, if I live life for myself, leave my friends behind because they're kind of nagging me about things, and just be me? I can do it by myself. It's fun out there. There's new friends out there waiting for me. I don't need the church. I can get out of the yard. I can take care of myself. It's like that dog that decides to play with the wolf and walks off into the bushes. Pride. It's impossible to not choose to submit to God and at the same time not be under the influence from the evil mind influencer that is Satan. You are either under God's protection, or you have left that protection, you've strayed from the house, you've went away, and the wolves are closing in. You're either walking with God, or you're walking away from God with your back to Him. Or you're walking away from evil with your face to God. It's one way or the other. You're facing the one, then your back is turned to the other. And it's pride that makes us think, oh, it's all right, that's all right, Pete. You keep saying what you're saying. I'm all right. I'm all right. James ends with these words, and I think they're words of comfort and hope. He says, come near to God, and He'll come near to you, and it's a promise. You take one step towards God, and He will come running towards you. You take one step to God, it's a promise. Come near, and He will draw near. You want to come near to Him, He'll be there. He won't fail you. Draw near, attempt, let go of the pool rail. Let go. Stop playing with the wolves. Draw near to God. Take a moment and just stop. People are so afraid to be alone with their thoughts in silence, to face reality, to look at themselves in the mirror. We're so proud of what we've made ourselves sometimes. I've made it so far. I must be doing something right. And then that pride separates us from God. And James says, man, the first thing you have to do right now is get serious about sin. I think that's one of the issues with the culture today. We like to laugh so much. We like to have fun. We don't take anything seriously anymore. Oh, stop taking it so seriously. Don't be boring, man. Enjoy yourself. Come on. Don't be so hard on yourself. And James is like, dude, guys, cut the music. Turn off the light. Stop the party for a second. Stop the train. Stop everything just for a second. Understand where you are. And he goes into these strong words. Cleanse your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, you double-minded. Be wretched and mourn and weep. Some of the greatest men in the world, some of the greatest spiritual leaders are those that have prayed prayers of God, crush me. Don't let me just be so wrapped up in my own desires. Crush that in me. I can't do it myself. Crush that. Make me mourn. Make me weep. Make me realize the disaster that's approaching. Don't let me get sucked into this. Don't let me think that playing with the wolves is all right. Stop me, pull me back. Because sometimes it's in the dirt when we are humbled that we run to God. And it's when we're having fun that we want to go play with the enemy. I want to conclude with just a story, John 8. Just more words of hope and just something to encourage you guys. A young lady that was caught cheating on her boyfriend, maybe her husband. There was somebody that cared deeply about her, and she broke his trust to go sleep and be with another man. Maybe it was the first time she did it. Maybe it's been happening for a while, but this was going to be the last time she did it. Because the law of that land treated relationships very, very seriously. And if you were caught cheating on a significant others, you were put to death. It was capital punishment. And so she didn't think that as she snuck away to be with this lover, that this was going to be the day where it all ends. She didn't think as she walked into his tent, maybe having a beverage or two along the way, that this wasn't going to end as it usually ended, with her slipping away quietly into the night, having done the deed. No, this time, the tent door would be yanked open by the police of that time, and she would be dragged out, yelling, kicking, screaming, crying, understanding very clearly what was about to happen. She has shamed her family. She has destroyed the life of somebody that loved her to pursue her own passions, to have fun. Instead of taking her straight where they were going to execute her, though, the men that had her decided to take her by the temple. They brought her to the temple for a reason, because a guy named Jesus was over there. He's been walking around preaching things, claiming to be the Son of God, and they were going to test him a little bit. So the police sergeant, if you will, a member of the Sanhedrin, said, "Hey, bring her to the temple. We're gonna make an example of her, but I also want to teach this Jesus guy a lesson." And so they bring her in. They throw her in the ring. All the men gather up stones. There was plenty of construction material around that time, so they've got good stones. And they're like, "Hey, we're gonna kill this woman for what she's done." But first, Jesus. In the Old Testament, in our law, it says that we need to kill somebody like this. I mean, she's just so morally depraved. What do you say? What do you say, Jesus? She's done everything wrong. She doesn't deserve to live. I mean, all she'll do is keep being the same person. People don't change. What do you say, Jesus? She's a sinner. I don't know how long that silence was until Jesus looked up. Maybe looking right in the eyes of their ringleader, of that police sergeant, of that government official, of that Pharisee. And he said, "Hey, I've got an idea. I want whoever here is without sin to throw the rock first." And then he looks back down and continues to write in the dirt. In the silence that followed, all of a sudden you could hear a thunk, and another thunk, and more thunks. As the men dropped their rocks and left, because all of a sudden they begin to think about what they've done in their secret life, and walked away. And when there was nobody there, Jesus looks up again and looks at her and says, "Hey, where'd they go? They were going to kill you. I know what you did. They know what you did. What happened? Where are your accusers?" She thought maybe Jesus would accuse her. She's like, "Well, I might be standing in front of one right now. Maybe there's one left here." And then the most incredible words come out of his mouth as he looks her right in the eyes, knowing more about her than she did, knowing more about her than what the Pharisees caught her in, looks her right in the eyes, all the way through to the bottom of her heart, to the darkest depths of her brain, seeing the complete depravity that she was in, but also seeing her heart and how completely crushed she was. And he says, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, sin no more." Can there be words that have more hope than that? Can there be words that have more forgiveness than that? Can there be anything else or anybody else that would accept like Jesus accepted when he says, "Draw near to me, taste and see, take a sample, experience forgiveness. Experience what it's like to live a life where you're not driven by your unfulfilled desires, continuously more disappointed day after day. Live a life that is full. Live a life of forgiveness. Live a life that is filled with my presence. Draw near. And I promise you, I will be there." Folks, that's a grace that penetrates life. God opposes the proud. He gives grace to the humble, James says. He gives more grace. Where sin is deep, your grace is more. And that is why, folks, that submission brings you into eternity. And that first second of eternity, you'll realize, wow, this all makes sense now. If we could, I would love to invite you all to stand. I would love the band. I want to invite you to just for a second consider your life. If you've been a believer for a while, if you're just new to church right now, you're like, "Man, I'm still trying to figure out what you guys believe in. Who is this God? What are you guys all about?" Just consider your life, the reality of the fact that you have been disappointed in your existence, that it has not been everything you thought it could be. And as those desires keep building up, it only gets more and more disappointing. But there's another way. And there is somebody that loves you deeply and forgives completely. There is a grace to be had tonight. And so, man, can we, if you're a believer, just rejoice right now. I just want you to worship God for what he's given you. If you have something in your heart where you feel, "I need to repent of this right now," I need to fall before him because he knows exactly what's happening in your heart right now, you have that opportunity tonight as well. But do not leave here with those passions still burning inside of you, to continue to be disappointed and angry and bitter. Leave here with love and forgiveness and grace in your heart. I'll leave it up to the band to conclude.